Welcome to Live in the D Plus, everyone. It is so very good to be hanging out with you all. Now, our team is still on a high from our live show this morning. We took our show live on the road to the Detroit Shipping Company right here in Midtown Detroit, and the energy was absolutely incredible. But now we're going to keep the conversation going with a behind-the-scenes look at what you didn't see on air. From the unseen moments to creative decisions to crew stories, we are going to dive into what it really takes to pull off a show on location. And joining me is our Live in the D executive producer, Steve Lugerai. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Well, now, Steve is a new face to a lot of you. You are our new executive producer. So let everyone know a little bit about you, because you've been part of the Graham family. And why did you want to do lifestyle? Because you've been hardcore news in the past.
Yes, I am a lifelong Metro Detroiter. I grew up in Hamtramck, and then after graduating from Hamtramck High School, moved into Macomb County, and have lived in Macomb County. I've worked in TV here most of my life. 2014, I took a management position at our sister station in Houston, and I was there for almost 9 years. I absolutely enjoyed working there with a great group of journalists and group of people. Houston was fantastic place to be. Very hot and humid in the summer, but nice and mild in the winter, so I enjoyed that. But then, it was like home was calling, and I came back home, and I had the opportunity now to be the executive producer of Live in the D. It's a lifestyle show. I've been in news for 28 years of my life, almost 29, and I figured this would be a nice little change of pace for me. It's every day, not that I didn't enjoy doing news. It was a passion of mine. I was very passionate about that. But I felt like I needed a change, and this, I think, presented the best opportunity to do that. I mean, everything we do is just fun and exciting and jovial, and we do fun stuff, and I enjoy that. It's brought a nice pep to the step, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see that. And we're still serving our community in just a different way now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
In a happy way, positive way.
Yes.
So I know that transition from news to lifestyle, and it is lovely. Let me just put that out there. But listen, Steve, we were out there doing our live show at the Detroit Shipping Company, which was amazing. So talk with us a little bit about the vibe that was out there and the energy, because it's one of my favorite places, which you guys now know, but this is a brand new place for you.
First time there. I was there a couple days ago to do a site survey just to kind of see the landscape there. But first time there, phenomenal place. I mean, you basically have at your doorstep, within walking, a few steps of each other, multitude of restaurants, multitude of drinking options, other businesses that are there, all under one roof. And it's just a phenomenal place to be. I did not know it existed in the city, and this was a phenomenal opportunity to be able to experience that, not only as a part of the Live in the D team, to bring it to our viewers, but also from an individual perspective. I'm like, I want to come back here. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Definitely. It definitely has that kind of vibe. But now let's talk about what it takes to set up a show in a space like the Detroit Shipping Company, because you just mentioned you went in and had to do something called a site survey. So what does that entail in the planning process?
So basically, members of the production team here at Local 4, we visit the site. In this particular case, it was the Detroit Shipping Company, and we look at the landscape, so to speak. We look at where we can position our cameras. What does it look like on camera? What are the particular shots that we can use that show and accentuate the greatness of the space? And so that's part of it, and we have to make sure that there's adequate power supply and there's adequate internet service so that we can also send our signal back, and there's adequate space to be able to move around and do the different segments that we did.
Yeah, there's a lot of details that go into something like this,
Sure.
down to what power is available. And like you said, the internet
Absolutely.
signal, all of that is important. What kind of mics we're going to use,
Sure.
This thing that you always see in my ear, the IFB, how are we going to navigate that in this space? Because I do remember when we did 313 Day, that was a completely different setting. And the internet, maybe not so great right next to the Detroit River, but we still made it work. But these are all the things that we have to take into consideration when we put together a show like this for everyone. Lots of details to it. So were there any surprises or challenges behind the scenes that viewers might not know about?
I mean, surprises. One thing that really got me today was you walk in and you're just immersed in the smell of fantastic food. And it's just a potpourri of smells, if you will. And it's all very good, and it smells delicious and inviting, and makes you immediately hungry.
Yes.
Right? So that's the best part about it. There are always challenges. I mean, sometimes you maybe block a particular camera shot that you think is going to work, but maybe, it doesn't quite work out, but you work through some of those challenges. And then there's always the maneuverability that you need, to get through segments and to make sure that, people aren't walking in your shot, especially in a setting which is not a typical studio setting, right? That's a normal space that people, come in and out of all day long when they're there. And so you have to make sure that people aren't stepping into the shot and that kind of thing. Those are some of the challenges, not only for this place today, but any location where we shoot.
Yeah, definitely. A lot to think about. We can't have people walking in and out kind of being crazy right behind us to the camera. But let's circle back to the food. Because when you walk in there, if you haven't been, any of our people out there, the first thing that hits you is aromas that don't compete with each other, but you are immediately hungry when you walk into this place. Yeah. So what makes the Detroit Shipping Company, in your opinion, such a unique place to broadcast from? Because we've done a lot. We've been to, we did Women's History Month, and we were all at the, I'm drawing a blank. We were at Cranbrook, right?
Okay, yes,
we did that. Is this our first live show together? It isn't. What else have we done?
So I participated in opening day at Comerica Park, although that was couple weeks after I'd started. So I wasn't involved in the planning and execution of that. I was there more or less as an observer.
Yeah, you jumped right into the fire. You did a little bit more than observing.
That's
we
okay.
were there beforehand, and he was helping with a lot of stuff. But we jumped right into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's... I just like the fact that there's so much variety in such a little space, right? From the restaurant options to coffee to ice cream, and then the different businesses that operate there. And we had an opportunity to see some of them today. Detroit Dog Mom with some of her, gear and things and she's looking to expand and really open up her store there as well. Yeah. So there's a lot to see, and they have 2 bars there that operate. So for people who want to go there for a cocktail or a little get together with friends, it's a perfect opportunity. And we didn't really get an opportunity to spend time outside at their outside space, but that looked very inviting and exciting to be able to go there too.
Yeah, that's not quite ready to be opened up for the summer yet, but I mean, the weather is going to change like this. It's going to be very warm starting next week. And I also find the Detroit Shipping Company to be the perfect place to get together with friends after work.
Yeah. They open up at 4 on most weekdays. So it's a great opportunity, to stop by after work and unwind.
Definitely. Now, this was you can really unwind. Listen, this was also an opportunity for people to learn about the food that they offer at the Detroit Shipping Company. And as a matter of fact, April spoke to a few of them, but here is her conversation with Genevieve Vang from Bangkok 96.
This is actually Tati's favorite place. This is Bangkok 96, and joining me now is owner Guinevere. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Of course. Guinevere, this looks amazing. Talk to us about what do we have going on here.
Okay, so this is our famous dish. This is our number 1 and number 2. Well, they're all good because they are gluten-free and allergen-free. So here, the Detroit Shipping Company has been a journey for us. This is our 8 years anniversary.
8 years.
Yeah, so I'm very blessed by the landlord. I think he's just honored me to be here, and I can raise my kids for college. I'm making money here. I raise the kids for college.
College is not cheap, right?
It's not cheap anymore, but thanks God. I just want to say Jonathan is the best landlord I ever know. Yeah, and what we here is we focus to gluten-free, allergen-free, and all the meat natural, and no steroid, no hormone injection. So that's very healthy for the community. So we want to come here because we focus the community, offer a healthy and it tastes good food.
Well, thank you for that, and everything looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Everything does look amazing. It is amazing. So Miss Genevieve is very gracious and very generous. So she actually fed everyone lunch. So Steve, I got to ask you, what did you think of the food from Bangkok 96?
I mean, 10 out of 10 for me. I hadn't tried it before, but it was delicious.
What did you have?
I had the grilled chicken with the rice and then the broccoli.
Okay.
But it was very tasty. It didn't feel like, overwhelming or overpowering. So definitely high marks. High marks.
High marks.
Yes, for sure.
High marks. I think our Natalie got the crispy chicken,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very big deal for someone like me because the breading is gluten-free. So you can eat, without, when you're gluten-free, you have this constant anxiety when you're eating out. Like, did that touch that? Like I was
Sure.
somewhere and they told me it was gluten-free, but there was like breaded fried onions all over something. So when I go there, I have this like relief, but the food is incredible. Very flavorful. Not too spicy. So if you want to do pad thai or you want to do grilled chicken like Steve, she made me a plate. She made me this coconut curry salmon.
Okay.
Next level.
Yeah.
I recommend that as your next meal.
She suggested that to me.
Did she?
I opted with the chicken, but,
Okay.
but I may try that next time.
Yeah, you're like, let me ease into this.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me see what you're working with. But, once you have one thing from her, you have a lot of confidence to order a bunch
Sure,
of
of
things off of
course,
the menu,
yeah.
definitely. So, Steve, let me ask you this. Were there any favorite unscripted or candid moments during the show for you as our executive producer? Because this is the person who is literally like the wizard behind the curtain, watching everything and making sure that things go smoothly. What'd you think?
I mean, part of the show is unscripted as it is because you only script so much, and you really want the authenticity of the hosts and the guests that you interview to not be canned, so to speak. You want it to be genuine and authentic, and I feel like the whole show itself was genuine and authentic. The making of the drinks at the bar, that's always exciting to watch because, look, I am not a connoisseur of knowing how to make drinks. I'm like, okay, you know how to make it? Mm-hmm. I'll drink it. But putting it together is always a challenge for me. But that's always fun to watch, especially when you have a bartender who's experienced and knows what they're doing. So.
And created all the recipes
Yes.
of everything that you'll find at the Detroit Shipping Company. That was Brenda Fage. She's the bar manager. And of course, I had to ask, did you come up with all these recipes? And she did. And the thing I didn't get to mention on air was the pinkish looking drink was made with prickly pear, which is a really hot ingredient right now.
Yeah.
I had a prickly pear soda at a place that they imported sodas from like Japan or something. It was phenomenal.
Okay.
So I'm sure that put that on your list, you guys. Maybe that's something you can try when you get out there. But we are going to be going live a lot more. We do at least one live show a month. So we're going to be on the road again. What would you like us to do differently, or what would you like us to replicate next time around?
So what I liked about like today's show, for example, was again kind of like the off the cuff, the very minimal scripted. I like the free flowing nature of a show.
Okay.
Because I feel like sometimes you'll get too boxed in if you script every single essence of a show. It's okay maybe to have a few lines of an introduction to a segment or to a guest. But I prefer to have more of an unscripted feel to a show. I feel it's more raw, it's more authentic, it's genuine. I think people really appreciate that. So that I would like to replicate that on any show that we do, especially on location. While today was fantastic in the space that we were in, I'd like, and we have some of those shows that are lined up coming up in the next couple months where the landscape and the space that we're operating from is much larger. There's a much larger footprint. And when we're talking about, festivals at various parks and, various landmarks in the city of Detroit that I'm not going to get into many details about right now, but the footprint is quite large.
Yeah.
So that gives you the opportunity to really explore and do different things throughout the hour. An hour may seem like a long time, but it flies by, especially when you've got different segments that you're putting together. So.
It really is, because we're always thinking, how are we going to squeeze all this in?
Yeah.
Which is what we thought with the Detroit Shipping Company
For sure.
too, because there's so much to cover. But I love that challenge.
Yeah, that's always a challenge with live TV, but it's a good challenge to have. And one thing that I particularly like about it is, that nuance of we do a lot of prep for the shows. So it's not like we just show up and like, okay, what are we going to do? So there's a lot of prep work that goes into a lot of these on-location shoots. And so we'll know ahead of time what particular topics we want to talk about or what particular venues we want to highlight, who we're going to be interviewing and what their connection is to the topic that we're discussing. So that we know ahead of time because, we want to be informed about what we're doing, and that makes the show look better and feel better. But again, just going back to I like the real raw and gritty nature of doing a live show like that. It's fantastic.
Same here. It's a great challenge. I love it as well because you got to be on your toes. There's a certain, comfort that the studio gives you.
Sure.
That when you don't have that and you're live out there, it kind of makes you rise to the occasion as well.
Well, and that's the one thing that I really want to let our viewers know is, you see the people that are in front of the camera. They see you, and today they saw Jason. But there are so many people. There's an army of people who are behind the cameras who are helping make the execution flawless. And so kudos to everyone involved in today's production, those who were there on location and some who were back here, because there are so many hands that play a part in putting productions like that together that every single person plays an intricate role in that.
They really do.
Their work is much appreciated, sometimes underappreciated because it becomes so commonplace that you don't think to say, oh, thank you for basically doing your job. But your job is crucial to what we do. So thank you to everyone out there.
Yeah, big thank you to everyone. And it has to be, there goes our technical director. We appreciate it. And it has to be executed perfectly.
Yes.
There's no margin of error. It needs to be done right in that moment. There's no edit undo when you're out live at location. So Steve, you're right. They bring so much to the table. So thank you to our entire crew. Now there are so many more live shows coming up that we're looking forward to, showcasing the community by being in it, which I'm incredibly excited for this summer and as the weather finally starts to warm up. But Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us on Live in the D+. You guys will be seeing more of him because the purpose of Live in the D+ is to give everyone a snapshot of what happens behind the scenes.
Sure.
So you'll see Steve, you'll see April, of course Kim will be here. She'll be hosting this as well. Sometimes we'll be here together. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. But you'll get a lot more conversation from all of us in the near future, including live shows. Steve, thank you again.
Thank you. I live here now, so I'll be here more.
Yes, exactly. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with more Live in the D+. Welcome back to Live in the D+, everyone. A big thank you to our executive producer, Steve Lugerai, for hanging out with us and, to chat and give you guys all the behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to put together one of our live shows, with the good and the bad and the challenges, and just to give everyone an appreciation for how much work actually goes into it. And it's funny because as I talked to him, I realized, geez, we really did put a lot into making that show successful. Much to his point, like sometimes you're just in it and you're doing it, and you don't even realize how much effort is actually put into things because that's just your normal, everyday, day in and day out kind of effort that you put forth. So that was awesome to chat with him. Like he said, and like I said, we'll be doing a lot more live shows coming up in the near future, and we're super excited to share those with all of you guys. Now, earlier this month, I had the incredible honor to speak with legendary journalist Joan Lunden. She will be coming to our area, to Port Huron, if I'm not mistaken, to keynote an event that's all about being a caregiver and different ways that you can kind of take care of yourself. It's actually Caregiver Connection Expo in Port Huron. And we talked about the importance of supporting caregivers and what she plans to share at the event. But then again, our conversation also took a powerful and personal turn as Joan opened up about her own personal journey with breast cancer, a story that continues to inspire and empower so many. Take a look at that part of my interview with Joan Lunden. As the U.S. population ages, the need for caregivers is greater than it's ever been. For example, SeniorLiving.org reports about 53 million American adults provide care to family members or friends who have a chronic health condition or disability. Next month in Port Huron, a special event will be held to honor caregivers and to provide them with valuable resources and information. The keynote speaker at the event is Joan Lunden, the former co-host of ABC's Good Morning America. She is also an award-winning journalist, best-selling author, and dedicated caregiver advocate. She joins us now on Live in the D. Joan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, we're going to get right into it. Tell us about your own personal caregiving journey.
So my mom lives forever in California, and I, of course, moved across the country to New York to work for WABC TV in New York and later Good Morning America. So I was what you call a long-distance caregiver. I had my mom and my brother both in a condo living together. He suffered from all the complications of type 2 diabetes. So I was kind of taking care of both of them, flying back and forth across the country all the time. The problem with that is that you aren't around to see all the little things that are kind of the giveaways that say things aren't going so well. And I also think that when we go to visit our aging or our ailing relatives, we put blinders on. Quite honestly, let's face it, it's because we don't necessarily want to see all those things that are telling us that caregiving is at our doorstep. But boy, you got to take those blinders off and you have to go in and quite honestly be a snoop. Look in their cupboards in the kitchen. Is the food expired? What's in their refrigerator? You know, they change their tastes as they age and they eat less, and certain medications affect the taste of food. So there's so many seniors who are malnourished. They just lose the will to get up and cook their own dinner as well. But look for those stacks of mail that's unanswered. I mean, there are little things, and and make their environment as safe as you can. I used to take a whole purse full of the little night lights and I'd put them down the hallway. I'd make sure that there were no throw rugs that she could fall with. But, and the other thing is that be prepared. Like, you never really know when it's coming your way. It's usually a phone call. Somebody took a fall. Have that family meeting. We always talk about it, but have the family meeting and ask them where all the important papers are, the deeds, the trusts, the wills, the mortgages, the car titles, and get all their important medical information. And, I always recommend something. Take your phone. These days you can do it on your phone. Sit them down and say, I want to know more about what life was like in this world when you were young. And ask them questions about when they were little, growing up, and how about when you were little and when they first met, your mom or dad. And once you get them talking, and of course, the older they are, I can tell you that it's those memories that they'll remember. They won't remember what they had for lunch, but they can remember things from long ago. And once you get them talking, that's when you can also ask them about their next chapter. Where did they think they want to be living? And eventually, give me a little sense of, how do you want to be buried? Where? Ask those questions while you can still get the answers.
Yeah, those are really great tips for those who are caregiving now, or it's going to be right at their doorstep and happening very soon. But let's switch gears a little bit, because almost 11 years ago, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. You are now cancer-free, and you wrote a book about that experience. What did you learn from that time in your life, and what is your message to the women who are watching you right now?
Well, it's funny because I named the book Had I Known, because as I was talking about it, I kept saying, had I known that only 15% of women diagnosed with cancer ever had a family history, I wouldn't have walked around feeling so immune. And, had I known about dense breast tissue, I didn't know anything about it. But I went to interview Dr. Susan Love, an expert on breast cancer. And, I said to her, I'm always that person in the waiting room that they say, we need more pictures. And you freak out and you say, oh my God, did you see something bad? And they always said the same thing to me. No, it's just hard to see anything because your breasts are so dense. Well, I didn't know that was something that should make me perk up and say, because I learned from Dr. Love that dense breast tissue shows up white on a mammogram, and so does cancer. She said, so if you have dense breasts, it's kind of like trying to look for a snowball in the middle of a snowstorm. So I didn't realize that dense breast tissue can actually mask cancer. But because I was set on that interview, the next year when I went for my annual mammogram, I told my gynecologist, Dr. Susan Love told me that I should also get an ultrasound. Had I not had that ultrasound, Kati, I would have walked out of there that day after a clean mammogram. I got a clean mammogram, and I would have thought I was fine. But thank God I had that ancillary test because of that interview, and that's where they discovered my breast cancer. And early detection can save your life. I mean, that saved my life.
That's a huge lesson for all of us. It really is. But now, as we mentioned earlier, you will be in Port Huron next month. Tell us a little bit more about the event.
It's funny. This is going to be the second time I'm going to Port Huron. I was there a few years back and did another event. I don't even remember what the event is. That's why I wrote a book called Why Did I Come Into This Room? About aging. But this is going to be a great event. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning and it goes till about 4 in the afternoon. I'll be a speaker there, but they're going to have all these other activities. And there's going to be caregivers there and families, and there'll be seniors there and healthcare professionals. And they're going to have all kinds of like expert-led discussions so that there'll be an opportunity to, immerse yourself in knowledge that will be important. But they also have cooking classes and like all kinds of meditation. And it's kind of like a day off a little respite, because we know how important it is to caregive the caregiver, because caregiver burnout is a very real thing. And so if you are in that position that you're taking care of a loved one, just remember, they say that if you don't take care of yourself, the chances are that you will die younger than you should have, because you get so wrapped up in focusing on taking care of this other person that you forget that you need to tend to your own wellness.
Yes, and this is going to be a perfect opportunity for people to do just that. Joan Lunden, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, so those were some very profound words of wisdom from Joan Lunden. Hopefully, if you are a caregiver or know one, or just want to learn more about it, you can attend the event in Port Huron. And we just thank you for joining us for Live in the D+. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Live in the D.